To be liberated or not to be liberated, that is the question. According to the higher order cognitive methodology known as systems thinking, a system is a set of related components that all work together in a particular environment to perform whatever functions are required to achieve the system's objective. Let me unpack that definition just a little bit. As Black people, we live in an enemy system that is highly organized to support the welfare needs and interests of the citizens of the Republic for which it stands, one nation, not under God, with liberty and justice for the immigrants of Europe, known as the United States of America. Every institution in this land, whether agricultural, industrial, educational, political, economic, judicial, or social, were established to reinforce and perpetuate the prosperity of the founding fathers and their descendants at the expense of the Black man and woman's labor, pain, sweat, blood, tears, grief, and loss. The overwhelming objective of America's power system is simple: to keep those in the power group in a position of total authority and ensure those outside the power group remain helpless, dependent, and permanently disenfranchised. Just look at any period of social upheaval or general insecurity in American history, and you'll get a very clear picture of how this enemy system operates in synthesis to support itself. Take, for example, the Great Depression of the 1930s. Who were the first folks to be laid off from their jobs, denied access to public assistance programs, and even excluded from receiving food through soup kitchens, churches, and other charitable organizations? You guessed it. The same ones who were the last hired, worked the hardest, paid the least, mistreated by their employers, and discriminated against daily by their co-workers, Black folks. Truth be told, there was some good that came out of a corrupt system, hell-bent on keeping its power and authority at the demise of those who were intentionally excluded from it. This blatant disregard for Black humanity caused us to organize and struggle to build in our own best interest. It forced us to come together and pool our meager resources to create the institutional mechanisms we need to survive and to thrive. For example, we established the Negro Urban League, and it launched a national movement called Jobs for Negroes by boycotting chain stores that had mostly Black customers but no Black employees. Black folks who were exclusively Republicans in the 1930s got tired of being ignored by Republican administrations, and so we left the party, drifting to the Democratic Party en masse. Then when President Herbert Hoover appointed John J. Parker, a pronounced racist and openly anti-Black judge, to the Supreme Court, the NAACP successfully opposed the nomination. Later in 1932, presidential race, African Americans overwhelmingly supported the successful Democratic candidate Franklin D. Roosevelt. Did the system change and begin to work in our favor? I don't think so. But what did change is we discovered, rather than being mere victims of the system, we could be proactive, and through our collective actions, our collective work and responsibility, our self-determination, strategically upset the very balance of the system and make it possible for some alternative outcomes to take place. To be liberated or not to be liberated from the system, that is still the question. Remember that a system works together to perform whatever functions are required to achieve that system's objective. So, if we agree that we are completely excluded from equal access and equal participation in the enemy system, and we are, then the obvious, most practical, programmatic, and rational response would be what? Did I hear somebody say to build our own? I think somebody's doing some critical thinking up in here. In the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, we operate in what we call the divine system. What is the nature of this divine system? The authority and power within this system comes from the Most High, the omnipotent one, the grand source of all creation, the very cosmic energy and creative intelligence in which we live, move, and have our total being. It is the same awesome power which permeates every aspect of life, both seen and unseen. It is a system which aligns with the natural order of the universe, which says that everything in life is sacred and that it all works together in service of the greatest good. Our role within this cosmic system is simply to access divine energy and power in order to rise above our lower self, in order to become our best selves. In order to transform our lives within an enemy system, we must first be dedicated to some basic obligations that will keep and allow us to thrive and survive, and to find balance within these two opposing systems. Are you still with me? We have to understand first that the enemy system is but a misaligned and misdirected part of the divine system, a cog in the machinery, a rogue animal which has gone amok, or a terrible experiment gone bad, if you will. While Euro-Americans are members of the group with power, black folks are members of the group without power. Just as the group with power uses their system to accomplish group objectives, we too must use ours to accomplish group objectives that will lead to our liberation from the enemy system and help us prepare for the final restoration of the black man and woman to live in truth, power, and righteousness once again. We must have, first, a shift in mindset, away from the linear thinking of a capitalistic and individualistic system, to a circular system which values the interconnection of all life, both spiritually and materially. If we can shift our mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, we can begin to untangle ourselves from the corrupt lifestyle and value system, which keeps us locked into a cycle of ignorance, poverty, and powerlessness. Just think about a lowly little caterpillar crawling up a tree, not appearing to be of much value in the higher scheme of life. Yet the odd and unlikely caterpillar has one of the most fascinating transformations that can be found anywhere in the natural system. It is quite unique among living things. A caterpillar goes through a 3 or 4 stage process to reach complete metamorphosis. It spends most of its short life eating and growing, preparing to pupate into its higher self. Although it's almost blind, very delicate and vulnerable to prey, it's still able to intimidate potential predators and protect itself from the adversities within the system, which might hinder it from accomplishing its ultimate goal, which is to soar. Its tiny body is covered with toxins, which are poisonous to birds, rodents, and other insects. You see, the system has given it all the tools it needs to be successful. And over the course of 2 to 6 weeks, it will grow to 100 times its original size in order to transform itself into a beautiful butterfly, breaking free from the confinements of its cocoon and finally taking flight. The question still remains: to be liberated or not to be liberated? You see, there is nothing in a caterpillar's outward appearance that tells you that it will one day be a butterfly. I'm trying to tell you something about the nature of the divine system. If the Most High gave a little caterpillar such inner potential, such hidden power, such an overwhelming sense of purpose to become its higher self, how much better can we, the original humans, Mama Nana's baby, break the chains of our confinements within an enemy system and live free? Free to be who we already are. All we have to do is utilize the tools that we have been given to work together in a particular environment to perform whatever functions are required of us to achieve our system's objective. Our beloved founder, the Honorable Jeramogi Abebe Ajiman, also known as Reverend Albert B. Clay Jr., gave us a new environment, empowering us to renounce the values of the enemy system, individualism, materialism, capitalism, escapism, and replacing them with material standards, communal values, and a programmatic process to build a nation within a nation, a system within a system. He gave us a new system with 3 essential tools that we call the Liberation Triangle. 3 tools which, if done together with special emphasis on making sure that the base is solid, can be used to help us survive and thrive. Ujamaa Code D. Voluntary taxation to build a black nation, giving regularly, sacrificially, all we can to support our collective existence beyond attachments to the enemy system. Ujamaa Kazi. Communal work that can help us build all the institutional mechanisms we need to be an independent and self-sufficient people. Kasanya Watu. Bringing black people, African people, people of color across the diaspora together, using the tools of technology within our virtual village to spread the gospel of our best self movement to those who have ears to hear and a mind to grow and evolve. The good news is we've done it before. And just like the little caterpillar, we don't need anyone else's permission, approval, or consent in order to discover our full potential and become whom the Most High intends us to be. A proud, self-determined, communal, God-loving people. All we need is to understand that within every system, there's something called causality. Causality simply means that one thing results in another thing, which results in another thing, and in a dynamic and constantly evolving system. Remember, everything in this life needs something else for its survival. So I need you, you need me, we need each other. If we give sacrificially and work expeditiously, we are able to transcend our condition and unite exponentially. To be liberated or not to be liberated? The answer to the question ultimately rests in our own black hands. Ashe and Amen.